Excellent.
Good afternoon, everybody. Many thanks for joining Brad and I. Really appreciate you taking time out your afternoon to join us today. So much appreciated as we head towards the golf season. I'm sure you're getting really busy at your clubs, getting everything ready. So hopefully we can help with that this afternoon. So that's fantastic. But just a couple of bits of housekeeping before we get started, if that's okay. Everyone who's on, if you can hear us loud and clear, if you can click the there's a toolbar at the bottom. There's a button that says raise your hand. If you can just click that button for us to check that you can hear us all okay. How's that looking, Brad?
We've got a couple of hands up at the minute, so hopefully everybody's can hear us okay. So we seem to be coming through loud and clear, which is good.
Perfect. And secondly, can everyone see the opening slide saying getting the most out of your 2022-23 full membership renewal? Click the raise your hand button again. Make sure you can see the screen I'm sharing. Is that all right, Brad?
Yeah, we've got some hands coming through. So yeah,
perfect. Great stuff. Thank you, everyone. So obviously, when I just touch base down the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, what we're doing today when we run through this topic, if you got any questions at all for myself and Brad, feel free to drop the question either into the Q&A section by clicking that button, or click the chat button, and you can leave it there as well. So a couple of places you use some questions, and we'll come round to the Q&A after our few slides at the end of that. That would be absolutely fantastic. So the session today is obviously all about getting the most out of your 2022-23 membership renewal. My name is Jamie Carroll. I'm one of the directors at Play More Golf. And Brad, if you want to do a quick introduction of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Brad Chard, again, relationship director at Play More Golf. Joined the business back in August of last year, and prior to that, sort of 15 to 20 years directly involved in golf operations at a general management level. So yeah, a topic that's definitely close to me.
Excellent. So today, guys, we're obviously going to cover this. It's pretty relaxed between Brad and I. So again, feel free to get involved, ask any questions at all. Our goal for you today from this is, if you're watching it, if you get just one bit of information that you can take back to your club or share internally in your club that you believe is going to benefit your full membership renewal this year, then that's job done for us. Hopefully there's more than one or two in there for you, but all we can ask is obviously your participation, which would be fantastic. Like I said, it's pretty relaxed. And then yeah, any information, any questions you want to, anything you want to share at any time as well, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A button as well. So we'll get stuck in and get started now. So what will we be covering today? So to start off with, obviously a couple of introductions. We'll do a quick intro about Play More Golf as well, just in case you weren't aware of us. A little bit of an intro of what 2022 holds for us all. There's a lot going on around the world at the minute. Obviously post obviously the past couple of years as well. I'm not going to try not to mention the C word. So but obviously what's happened the past couple of years, what this year looks like, defining what renewing full membership is, importance of member communication, your renewal plan. Do you have a plan? What can you include in your plan? Producing a timeline of activity that's going to get you the best result possible at your club, and then obviously potentially adding value to the renewal process while finishing up with Q&A. So just very briefly about this session isn't about us. It is about obviously helping and supporting your full membership renewal. But obviously at Play More Golf, we're a flexible membership product that slots into over 250 golf clubs in the UK alongside their full membership categories. Do a lot of work for golf clubs to make sure that we're driving them new highly yielding members at a certain demographic of customer that slots into their business requirements and their T-sheet requirements. So we've been up and running since 2016 and have obviously a significant amount of experience. Unfortunately, myself and Brad's age, probably a good 40 of that 150 plus years is wrapped up with us too, unfortunately. However, obviously we've got lots of experience in joining up lots of members that suit the golf clubs up and down the country. So it's a little bit about us. So straight into it. What does 2022 have in store for us. As we know, the past couple of years have been, been fruitful for many of the people in the golf industry and golf clubs. It's a slight element, a higher version of uncertainty heading into this year, just with economic factors alone. No one really knows how that's going to play out for the industry across the board, and never mind golf clubs, and what membership looks like. But obviously, there's been a significant increase in cost of living. The consumer inflation is forecasted to hit a 30-year high in April of 6%, which is, obviously really significantly higher than it's been for a while. Obviously, there's an increase in national insurance from April as well. It's going to impact 25 million people. We now forget, but furlough ended at the end of September last year, albeit it's a few months ago, and the frequency of golfer play is back to pre-pandemic levels. Especially what we see from circa 14,000 Play More Golf members across 250 clubs in the country. Last August, it actually dropped back to the frequency of play of those members dropped back to 2019 levels in August, as early as August last year. So how is this going to play out? How is it going to impact your club? Obviously, with risk becomes an opportunity. Just making sure that at each individual club, you're prepared and proactive for the potential negative effect this may well play out in the golf club industry across the UK. Just making sure you're prepared, so it's a bit less reactive, if you like, and proactively prepared for what this may look like. But obviously, there's lots of different factors in play. I gave There's horrible news in the Ukraine at the moment, but I even put the radio on this morning, and we're talking about 40% increase in fuel, which is going to filter through in about 2 weeks' time, which is just beyond comprehension, isn't it? Because obviously, even fuel now is significantly higher when it increased in December last year. So, not only with the economic challenges post the past couple of years, but obviously potentially other factors in play as well, having an impact on people's pockets, and dare I say, impacting their, what's deemed as a luxury item in their household going into the year. It's not nice to think about, but obviously, unfortunately, it's the economy we're facing for this year. Over to you, Brad.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that intro, Jamie. I have to say, do you know what? I was actually thinking this morning, this is probably the first time in about 15 years that I've probably not been at the heart of carrying through membership renewal this time of year. So, Mikey, it sort of really given me a chance to reflect, I suppose, on how was I 15 years ago going through this process, and how was I last year going through this process. And I have to say, it's changed a lot for me, but kind of over that short space of time. So, it gave me a chance to really reflect, to say, actually, arguably, it's probably one of the most important times of the year for the club. Clearly a substantial amount of annual income comes through during this renewal process as well. And I think I found as the years went on, actually just defining that and articulating that to everybody within the club was really, really key for me, to be able to just focus everybody's attentions over a period of time to say, actually, you know what, this is a really, really important time of year. And actually, you look at, you're going to come on to communication, I know, in a second, but, when you send that renewal communication out, arguably it's probably the most opened communication you're ever going to send out in the entire year, and it really then just puts some kind of real emphasis on great opportunity in that communication, just to really kind of selling the benefits of everything that we do. So yeah, really key for me to absolutely articulate within the business what it is that we're doing and why it is so important. So yeah, really good actually. And I think there's obviously a huge amount of clubs looking to renew their memberships around sort of the March and April time, big time. And I know we've got some clubs out there that obviously do rolling renewals as well. That's something that we obviously do at Play More Golf. We have a rolling renewal, and a lot of members actually auto renew as well. So it's a process where they just come up to the following year and carry on with us. So I know that's lots of clubs that don't have that. So it's a big sort of help for us as well. And I guess over the years, do you know what, I have actually looked to challenge the status quo, I suppose, on those renewal dates. Two clubs in particular that I was at had renewal notices going out bang after Christmas. You sort of look out the window and you go, horizontal rain coming up there, and not quite got into the golf season. And here I am sending out a the note to our members asking them to stump up some renewal. So do you know what? I probably in the early days kind of just carried on with that norm, I guess, but more recently sort of challenged that status quo to go, I wonder why I don't renew people in June when the sun's shining and members are sort of happy with the golf course and, all entered their knockout competition. So went through that process with 2 clubs, to be honest with you. 1 club we absolutely moved. And the second club, just because of timings and actually managing a cash flow, because that was the real critical factor as to whether we moved it or not, kind of put it into a position where it's the right thing to do, but because we were hitting COVID and cash flow wasn't the right time to do it. So I've sort of found some real benefits in challenging that and moving any renewals into the summer. And I have to say, certainly having gone through a club's renewal a couple of years when we moved it, certainly had a positive impact on that renewal number as well. We absolutely saw more members renewing. Members would talk to us to say, I wasn't overly sure, Brad, because of work or whatever year, but do you know what? Sun's shining. I'll carry on for another year. Sun's shining. I'm happy. I'm back playing golf. Whereas perhaps if that note had gone out to them in February, they may have thought, yeah, I'm not sure I really want to carry on. So yeah, really, really a couple of successful elements there of just looking at it going, is that the right time to do it? Could we go on to rolling as well? What's the benefits of going on to rolling? So lots of things to think about, I think, when you go into your sort of renewal process. Really, really key. So yeah, certainly defining it is vital.
Great. And just a question, when you moved that, Brad, from, let's call it a January the 1st renewal at a club, and you moved it to June the 1st.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a full 5 months added on to that. What process did you go to? The previous year, did you invoice people for 17 months membership, or was it 12 months and then 5 months and then recontract again for 12 months from the June? How did you do that?
Absolutely, blimey! It's given me some shivers thinking about that when I was.
We didn't prepare for this question either. We didn't prepare.
We didn't. It's just given me some shivers when I was thinking about presenting to a committee of 14, as I was at the time on this. So do you know what? Presented both options. Said, look, we got a couple of options here. We can either do, in that instance, an 18-month renewal process. Or we can look at doing it in 2 chunks. And actually, the good thing with having a committee is they give you lots of different views clearly, and they can kick it around. And actually the result was, do you know what? We'll go through some pain and we'll do 2 renewals. So we'll do a 6-month renewal. We'll do a 12-month renewal. We know there's some risk in that because you're doing a double renewal in the year. But actually, just because of the whole, do we want to be throwing somebody with an 18-month bill who might look at it, and that might be a deterrent? It felt the right thing to do. And I have to say, I wasn't sure about it, but having gone through it, it actually didn't impact that renewal process at all. Lots of members turned around and said, actually, we're really grateful for you thinking about that and thinking about actually how affordable it would be to pay 18 months. So looking at both options, having a committee kick it around and literally look at all options and come out with what you think is the most sensible approach. So
definitely, and splitting it would absolutely be more caring to the customer, isn't it, to the member? Because instead of just, you get the same result at the end of it, instead of just sending it in one 18 month chunk instead of splitting it out. And I think it's really important that I didn't know the outcome, that's what you did, but obviously the main importance of that is that it's with the consumer's needs and requirements in mind, isn't it? And what the actual consumer wants, and making a decision based on that versus actually let's force people into one chunk of 18 months. And then obviously that's got its risks in its own right.
Definitely. And you've hit that nail on the head. Actually, do you know what? Putting yourselves in that consumer shoes and defining what would be the right thing for them to do. So yeah, it was a good process to go through. But as I said, for me, the most important benefit of is it had an added benefit on renewals. We saw more people, which was great. That's all
great stuff.
So yeah,
great. Thanks for that, Brad. Cool. So just a bit on the importance of member communication. Really, this comes from, I remember having a conversation with a club, a full member of a club last year, and literally the only time he hears from that club is when a renewal invoice lands on his lap 4 weeks out before his renewal date. And there's no explanation, there's potentially just a price increase, but no explanation of that. And I think we're in a different we're all different humans nowadays versus 20, 25 years ago, where if there's just a normal 2-3% increase, then that's fine. But I think we want to know a bit more about that now. And I think communicating to your members, obviously, on a regular basis, and making sure it's not just a once a year conversation where we just want your money. I think it's really important. So obviously a member communication strategy and plan is an important part of it, should be an important part of any club. And one way I know I used to look at this, I haven't got as much club experience, but going back a number of years ago, in actually operating at a club level, is that, you know, just calculate how much, you know, total revenue of your golf club. How much of that is subscription revenue? I'm sure everyone on here would know what that is. And obviously that really, if you think about how much time you spend on that, on those customers, it should equate to the value of revenue for the club and the profitability of that club. So, you know, many clubs, membership subscriptions is broadly 65-70% of the total revenue. That's what Brad said earlier in terms of the next 6 weeks. For a lot of clubs, 6 to 8 weeks, if they're renewing on April the 1st, is the most important time of the year, especially with the uncertainty in the economy. So throughout the year, the amount of time that's focused on those people should be significant, because obviously it underpins the commerciality and cost base of the golf club. One other thing to think about and to be able to look at is, do you know who out of your membership base are those low users and that not at risk of renewing? And what we should be doing is communicating with those people differently. An example of that, and it's obviously what we do on a daily basis, but if we see a customer, a Play More Golf member at a club not using their membership, naturally we want them to use it so they get great value and then renew, or even upgrade in some form into a full membership in the future. However, so we communicate with those people differently versus someone who's ticking over on a more frequent basis. So just making sure that, do you have the tools to be able to communicate them differently? If you don't do that already, is well worth looking into, and making sure again that we're spending the right amount of time versus the percentage of revenue that members play as part of your club. And again, obviously, you know, go on, Brad.
I was just going to say, actually, do you know what? Even when you haven't got necessarily the software at your fingertips to be able to pull that information out immediately, you know, I just used to look at, well, actually, how many logins have I had onto my members area of my website? Let me pull that up and see who's logging in and who's potentially logging in. Who's in the F&B department actually spending some of their money? Who's not been in for a while? You know, and I could generally then pick out a few members every month, and I'll just literally just pick up the telephone and say to them, you know, hi, it's Brad here from such and such. Just seeing that doesn't look like you've sort of been in the clubhouse for the last few weeks. Everything okay? So on and so forth. And I have to say, the power that has of somebody going, blimey, the general manager of a golf club's actually picked up the phone, noticed I haven't been at the club and wanted to know how I was. And generally there was nothing untoward. They've been busy at work or whatever. But actually the message that it sent out is so important. And you could almost pick up who are your low users before you go into that renewal process. You can almost ring fence that risk in there because you've identified it earlier.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's that one-to-one touch. It's yeah, like you said, I can imagine it plays such a it's out of the blue, isn't it? It's a you know, a bit of a wow factor, if you like, that someone of operating the club has taken time to have that conversation. Like you said, Brad, you know, 9 times out of 10 is probably something pretty innocuous. However, it's you know, that the power of that, and the nice way possible, they're not going to keep that to themselves either. They're going to tell another member about it, or potentially other people as well. So you know, it has far-reaching positive consequences for sure.
And I think the reality with that as well, actually, if you intervene in it early enough, you know, what you don't want to do is that work then takes over. That for 6 months they've had no communication, and potentially they get to renewal and go, I just not used it. You know, let's I'm not going to renew this year. Whereas actually, appreciate you haven't got enough time for 18 holes. How about you come down and have 9? I'll tell you what, I'll get the sticks out. I'll come out with you, or you know, why don't you come up onto the practice range and we can have a knock and I'll shout you a cup of coffee afterwards. Just little things like that actually takes no time at all in reality, but the power it has is huge.
No, absolutely. And then just rounding this off, that, you know, obviously effective communications, again, communication plan, and spending the right amount of time on this, as obviously has a huge impact on retention, but also don't forget it has a positive impact on referral. So that example of Brad speaking to that member, going to tell other people about it plays a huge part of that, and obviously ancillary spend as well, because if you're communicating on a regular basis, getting people to use their membership because you want them to play and then renew in the future. Obviously the impact that has on ancillary spend is huge as well. And only about 4 or 5 weeks ago, we did another one of these sessions with a golf club that we work with up in the Northwest on ancillary spend only, and how they go about, and the head pro there goes about encouraging that, and that's well worth looking at in terms of that as well, which is all details all on our website. So, Brad, do you want to kick off and go through some thoughts on planning?
Yeah, definitely. So this is so critical part of it. And I guess when I very first started with membership renewal, I was probably in that horrible camp of going, well, I can just send my renewal notice out. You know, that member, when you renew, there's no problems there. And the more you do it, the more you really realize you absolutely need that plan. And really the critical thing for me was work back from my renewal deadline and then I'd work right back to the start. So I knew that I had to give myself, you know, a good 90-day run up to it so that I could absolutely have everything in place. And I knew exactly what was being communicated out and when it was being communicated out as well. You know, that was really, really key for me. So that plan, and I suppose the timing and the frequency of the communication was really, really important, including picking up those slow renewals. Very typically at golf clubs, you know, I could look back probably on the previous year and look at all those members that perhaps renewed 25 days after they were supposed to, 30 days after they were supposed to. I tell you what, they're probably the same people you get every single year. So you pretty much know who they are, and actually being able to identify those early on, so as you absolutely have a slightly different communication to them. I'd probably try and pick them out in the bar if I could, and just have a quick chat with them, and just to make sure that I was comfortable that everything was okay with them was kind of really, really key. So yeah, absolutely vitally giving yourself enough time. Always worked on that 90-day principle where I could. Interesting one in terms of how you're sending them kind of letters and emails or both. I know when I very, very first started in the last job over at Ashford Manor, I think day one was renewal notices going out for me. And I arrived at the club and there was just a hive of activity in the office of envelope stuff, and all these renewal notices were going into these envelopes. And it was just like, what is going on? This is unbelievable. And just everything was going out. And I know I said to myself sort of at the end of that first week, I said, I've got to be doing this by email next time. There's got to be an easy way of doing this than stuffing 800 envelopes. But yeah, we've got to a point now where there's a blend of both, because actually we've still identified some members within the golf clubs still like to have a personalized letter coming through. We've still got some members out there that aren't overly au fait with email, don't like using email, and would still get a personal letter. Thankfully, we've probably managed to get 95% of people onto email, which is great. So you've got a smaller population on letters. But for me, it's really important we still recognise that there are some members in golf clubs that don't do email and would still like a kind of a letter coming through, you know, personally signed by the general manager. So we'd kind of just do a real sort of blend of both on that. And I think then for me, you know, rota planning was really, really important in terms of having all the key people in at key times, and having a focus right in the middle of the clubhouse. We'd have a renewal table in there. So everybody was sort of walking past it. Gave an opportunity then to engage people in conversation. And I think then just one thing that I really, really learned over the years is actually communicating the plan down to everybody within the club. So from the greenkeeper, you know, the cleaner who'd come in early morning, all the food and beverage team, and just saying to them, look, this is the process, this is what we're going through. When you're engaging customers in conversation, members and visitors, or members in particular in conversation, you know, it's just, how's it going? Oh, have you renewed your membership this year? You're thinking of renewing your membership? Everybody's talking about it. And then for, you know, that member gets a touch point, be it a cleaner in the morning, food and beverage assistant behind the bar, waitress coming up and serving them some food, greenkeeper out on the golf course. It's not just reliant on the general manager or the office administrator waiting for a member to come into the office. We're talking about it. We've got a 6-week window. That's the main focus. And again, I wasn't sure I necessarily believed in it. I thought, well, this team's got enough on their plate without having to worry about renewal, but actually just giving them some very simple tools and some very simple questions they can ask members, again, had a massive impact, because quite often members will go, oh yeah, I know I got that email from Brad the other week. I better go and do that. I'm at the club. I'll tell you what, I'll nip into the office now and go and do it. So it's constantly just reinforcing those messages. And you see more members renewing quicker sort of by doing that, to be honest with you. So that was really, really good. Never used to be a fan of doing Facebooks, but Facebook videos for me, putting my ugly mug in front of a camera and walking around and just talking about what the plans are for the year ahead. So you'd support your renewal notice by just posting up onto your social media channels. You know, hopefully by now you've had all your renewal notices. You'd have seen the great work that we've got planned for this year. You know, reminding members what their member benefits are as well. So those kind of hints and tips for sort of planning that renewal. Clear communications right down the channels is really, really important. And actually not forgetting engaging with your key roll-ups that you've got in your club as well. Just having some conversations with them to make sure they've got their renewal notices, make sure they're happy with it, if they've got any questions about it. So for me, that 6-week window of renewal was out of the office, walking the floor a lot, talking to lots and lots and lots of people, and absolutely having a plan. Everybody's aligned to the plan. Everybody knows what they're doing. So important that we invest enough time in that, I have to say.
No, definitely. Yeah, all really good points there, Brad. And obviously the bottom point there is just to understand, you know, especially if you're making any significant changes in structure. You know, there's many clubs up and down the country that we've spoken to that obviously have had in inverted commas intermediate categories, so full membership but for different age groups, which over the last couple of years they've got waiting lists for, because obviously they tend to play a lot of golf at peak times because they have the ability to do so. So if there is significant changes, being transparent and showing the reason for those is really important for any customer, and understanding the reason for a change, maybe the removal of the odd category, the addition of the odd category, a price change, whatever it may be, but with some extra benefits. Explaining that and the transparency of it is critical for people to understand it, because they can get on the bus with you on that if they're told about it and understand. The worst case scenario is that it's big significant change, price increase, and not explained. It just doesn't wash with people nowadays, does it? So that's obviously really important as well.
Those jungle drums certainly rattle around the golf club when you don't explain these things properly, I have to say.
Absolutely, and especially obviously there's some more information here which I'll come through, but you know, having an understanding. You know, the main point of what we're going through here is the element of the consumer and the member and the golfer, and do you supply them what they need? You know, what products do they need to suit their lifestyle, and making sure you've got something for everybody, but without having 25 or 30 different categories. That's not a great thing to do. But having, you know, maybe 5, 6 or 7 key options for people, but making sure that you've got something that sweeps everyone up, so you can secure that contracted revenue over the next 12 months and give your club the best foundation to work off from. So yeah, something to think about there as well. So I know Brad touched base on this, but you know, making sure that in your renewal plan you've got, we'll come on to the timelines shortly, but follow-ups, you know, customer service, renewal calls, being able to identify those people like Brad spoke about, those low users. You know, making sure you've got signage available. Do you say sometimes a sensitive subject, but you know, do you use your membership software program to suspend members, taking into consideration their booking rights? So if one of your members can book 14 days in advance, for example, but they haven't renewed, you know, they're trying to book a game of golf from the 30th of March for the 10th of April. How do you manage that if they haven't renewed their membership? Again, it's sensitive and every club is slightly different. You know, do a large percentage of your members renew after their renewal date. So this is, you know, saying adding an early renewal incentive is slightly counterintuitive because they're actually just renewing on time, if that makes sense. But do you encourage people with some added value, which we'll come on to shortly. Brad mentioned earlier about renewal desks for early visibility. Really good to do it, for your 7-day members, the final weekend before your renewal date. Again, just makes the process easier and saves any embarrassment for members, because some members, let's face it, just forget. I'm probably one of those people, but by human nature, even if you're paying for a holiday and you pay the deposit, you're probably going to wait to pay the holiday until you get the red letter through all the emails. So bear that in mind, making it as easy as possible to save that embarrassment. Give yourself and the club a percentage renewal target. Brad spoke earlier about the whole club knowing and buying into that process. So give a target, a retention target to minimise that attrition. Have a list of unrenewed members available on the first tee on the renewal date, again, just to make sure there's no embarrassment for certain members who've missed renewing their membership. Certainly something that we've done in the past is that, let's say a membership is due for renewal on the 1st of April. Obviously, you want to give yourself some time to gather. And the last thing you really need to do is to count them as a leaver, a past member on the 3rd of April. If they have a 1st of April renewal date, people are on holiday, people just forget. But at the same time, do then give them a 30-day period through to the end of April, where actually then on the 1st of May, someone does become a past member for the future. Again, making sure we're sending final renewal emails and letters where and when necessary. Obviously, we're not sending them every single day, but having your plan to be able to do that on a specific day. And obviously, what's really important is, let's say 1st of April renewal, 1st of May, the membership renewal process for the year is closed. It's making sure that the results are measured. How was that versus the following year? How was previous year? How was it as a what did you put in the budget? And then making and assessing that and carrying learnings into the following year. Over to you, Brad.
Excellent. So yeah, just it's really making sure that sort of activity timeline is kind of all ticked on. Jamie sort of touched on a little point there in terms of just I suppose chasing membership renewals at times, because clearly we want sort of everything done and dusted as quickly as possible. I have to say, having worked on a system where there was no booking system, so taking away somebody's booking rights clearly wouldn't work on a booking system, and therefore being able to update the marshal or start on a weekday morning, we used to for a limited amount of time, we used to put somebody out there just to be able to speak to people, have a list of people who perhaps hadn't renewed. And actually, it's a bit of a soft touch from the start from the marshal, because they generally build up an affinity with them. They're volunteers generally, so they're members of the golf club as well. There's a natural affinity kind of between them and the member, and there's a bit of a I see you haven't renewed yet. Make sure you pop into the office at the end of your round and settle up. So that's certainly a good way when you haven't got a booking system. When you have a booking system, crikey, the last 12 months, this was probably one of the first times I actually had a booking system and did make the decision to suspend people's booking rights who hadn't renewed. It was again a lengthy discussion backwards and forwards between me and the committee. In the end, it was just let's try it. Let's just see what it does. If it all kicks off, we can switch it off if we need to. But I have to say, power that had in bringing that person in to say, oh, if I'm not renewed, oh, apologies for that. I tell you what, I'll give you my card number over the phone, because at the minute I can't get my slot on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. So I think I better renew quite quickly. So it did work. It's not right for everybody. It's got to be the right thing to do for your club. But again, I think if it can be done in a light-hearted way, and you're open and honest and transparent with people, as we've said kind of all through this, then that's absolutely really, really critical. So my experience tells me actually it's okay to chase renewals. It's just a light-hearted touch with them. And 9 times out of 10, somebody has forgotten. Somebody's forgotten to budget for it in their February pay packet or March pay packet. So they're going to wait to the end of March until they've got paid, the end of April until they've got paid, and then they'll do it. So the amount of conversations I used to have with members about that was huge. So definitely no issues with doing it. But actually, the other key thing for me was looking back over last year's and the year before, the trends of renewals. When do payments come in, and then how does that relate to this year? So do you know what I could report to my committee to say, actually, do you know what, at this stage we've got 150 more people renewed than we had at this point last year. So ultimately, if you do make changes to the renewal process, you can actually measure how good that process has been, or has it had a negative impact, a positive impact. So quite important to look back at prior year trends and then just see how you're doing this year. And that's just a question of looking back and going, well, actually, I know when I was past my renewal date, I still had 50 to 100 members that I still had to get renewed. Actually, do you know what? This year it's exactly the same position. So you take some comfort as you build up past your renewal date that you've still got plenty of time to get people in and get people renewed. So, we've got some good tools at our disposal to be able to do it. So,
absolutely.
Really, really critical. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And my comment on this one is just to make sure, Brad mentioned earlier about, top to bottom, bottom to top, in terms of everybody in your golf club knowing about this, whether it's a part-time cleaner to a part-time gardener and everyone in between. It's just making sure this lives and breathes within the club for that period of time, and communicate progress and have it visible, whether that's, like I said, a whiteboard in the office or something printed and stuck to it, whether it's using a bit of software such as obviously Teams or Microsoft Teams or Slack or any other bit of software. People have visibility of it. That means that they feel a bit of ownership and empowerment of that process, and you're likely to get a better result off the back of it. Okay, so lots of many golf clubs do this, and but if you don't or not thought about it, it's something to really bear in mind to add value to your membership renewal. And personally, myself and Brad both worked with an organisation called Crown Golf, and I won't apologise for just stealing this off what we did back 15, 20 years ago. But for rewarding somebody that renewed on time, not specifically early, but let's say they receive an invoice on the 1st of March to renew on the 1st of April. As long as they renew before the 31st of March, we used to reward them. And this wasn't anything that cost the property, cost the golf club. It was all based on adding value to that member's renewal if they renewed on time, and then encouraging them to use the facilities within the club. And there's some examples there on screen of things that you can use. There'll be some that you can't because of potentially, if you've got a restaurant or bar might be franchised at a members club, and obviously a relationship with head professionals at your club as well. However, it's all about driving ancillary spend in the future, as well as the redemption of the value. And so any value you add does not cost the business, does not cost the club anything. It only drives on spend and ancillary spend at that point of redemption and in the future as well. And the webinar we did with the head pro at We're All Golf Club on ancillary spend last month, he does a free 15-minute swing and grip check with each individual new member, but as well as adding that into the renewal pack for members as well, because he has an opportunity for 15 minutes to improve someone's golf, show them what the skills he has to make them better and improve and enjoy their golf more. And at the same time, he gets an opportunity for that member to buy lessons from him in the future as well. And if you've got that relationship with, in that example, like a head pro, dare I say, you're probably more likely to buy your next set of clubs, or your next 3-wood or your next putter or wedge from your pro as well, versus going to a third party online consumer. So this is something that for you to think about. It obviously drives great value to the member, but also gives you an opportunity to increase retention, and it's really good for cash flow as well, because you encourage people to renew on time and not renew 14, 15, 16 days after their renewal date. So all that helps. Have you got anything to mention on that, Brad?
I was just going to say, actually, even on that franchise side of things, even when you have got a franchise holder, quite often being able to just have that conversation to say, actually, it would be nice to build the Sunday lunch trade. How about we do throw something in there, even if it's a complimentary bottle of house wine or whatever it might be as part of the renewal process. And actually, again, having worked with a franchisee on a golf club, do you know what? They kind of looked at it, their immediate position was, I don't want to give it away. And then just those gentle conversations where, why don't you look at it from the perspective of what can you add to your business? Because at the minute your Sunday lunch business is doing okay, you got an opportunity to put something in the hands of 4, 5, 6, 700 people. Not everybody's going to redeem it, firstly, but you got an opportunity to then grow your Sunday lunch business as a result of it. And actually, you know what? They went, yeah, I get that. Okay, did it, and actually saw an uptick then as the year progressed of more people coming in for Sunday lunch. they hadn't tried Sunday lunch at the club before, didn't know about it, and actually then became avid Sunday lunch goers. So it just goes to show, even when you have got a franchisee as an owner, it doesn't hurt having that conversation and just asking them if they would like to do it. And I said, I had a position where somebody went from, no, I don't want to give it away, to, well, okay, I'll give it a go and see how it does, you know?
Great stuff. Perfect. Thanks, Brad. So everyone, thanks for listening and staying with us. We're 40 minutes in. We've got some, if anyone's, Brad, you can probably see better than me at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll just see the slides. Are there any questions there in the Q&A or the chat function?
Not at the minute, Jamie, no.
Okay, wow, all right. There is obviously there's a feel free to add that into there. We'll pick that up now. But as apart from myself and Brad's ugly mug shots on screen, there are contact details. Again, if there's anything at all, it doesn't have to be Play More Golf related. If there's anything that you think that can help your club, we've got any questions about what you've seen today, feel free to pick up the phone. Pick our brains. It's not going to cost you anything. If there's anything that you can get or any advice that we can help with, obviously we've got a fair bit of experience in this space, so feel free to pick our brains on anything. You know, it may not even be membership renewal. You might think, okay, these guys sound like they know what they're doing. If there's anything else that you want to know about for your golf club, feel free to pick up the phone. I'm happy to help in any way, shape, or form what we can.
Yeah, I can't echo that enough, Jamie. You know, if anybody does just wants a little bit of guidance on any matter, please
Yeah.
do pick up the phone, drop us an email or whatever it might be. We're here to help. So you know,
exactly, and especially with the more uncertainty in the economy at the moment, and obviously the impact that has on any industry, and obviously we in the golf industry is one of those. If there's anything we can do to help, like I say, pick our brains on any subject, feel free to get in touch. What we'll do off the back of this is we've recorded this session, everyone. So what we'll do, a member of the team will be in contact to send you a copy of it. Feel free again to share that internally with your organisation, with your golf club, or whatever whoever you're watching this from today. So feel free to go and share that. But we'll be in touch over the next couple of days to be able to share that with you, and you can use that recording to however you want to. So nothing else to say, but again, thank you everyone for your time. Really appreciate you joining us today and participating. So we'll obviously hopefully be in contact and speak soon. Thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. Take care.
Bye bye.